Hi, my name is Ann Morrissey. Welcome to First Parish, Northboro Unitarian Universalist Church. I actually think I got it in the right order. Let's see who we are. We are a welcoming congregation. We have people here from many faith traditions, and ours is not a doctrine, but an invitation to ask questions and to listen as we talk about the various principles that Unitarians abide by from across all sorts of faiths. If you have not been here before, I will say a special welcome. And even if you have, I'll share that the facilities are not in this building. They are in Parish Hall across the way. And if you walk in, it's a door directly to your right. I have a couple of quick announcements, and I would invite anyone who has an important announcement to make a little cue. The announcement that Celia has asked me to follow through with. Celia is our board president. We have what is going to be, I know I'm excited about everything, but no, this is going to be really, really lovely. It's a First Parish greeter and worship assistant training program. It's going to be next Saturday from noon to 1:30, so not a big commitment. If you have anything to do with greeting, or if you are a welcoming person by nature even, if you're doing offertory, any of that, we invite you to attend the meeting, and it's for people who wish to represent the church during services. Any readers, prayer meditation leaders, service facilitators, greeters, everyone. The training will cover a review of the service, the basic of welcoming and greeting, the use of the microphone, a very brief experience in public speaking, and a walk through some of the customs of assisting on Sundays. Flexible, yet we do have traditions. It will also give the worship committee a much needed confidence in the skills when people come to the pulpit with their pitch hitting, like I am. And everyone's invited, even if that just sounds interesting to you, so please come along. Are there any other announcements that anyone would like to hear? Oh, very important. The Meeting House Art Center, which is the conglomerate of all of our buildings, is hosting its first Friday of the month open mic. And it's a popular place, so I say get there at least by 6:59. Yeah, so. I will turn it over to you, Reverend. Oh, I'm sorry, the most important line, and I kept you waiting. This is retired Unitarian Universalist minister Terry Cummings, and I personally am so delighted to have Terry here. Finally, thank you.
Thank you.
I leave it in your capable hands.
Thank you.
You will positively enjoy.
Good morning, First Parish. It's so lovely to be here to see you this morning. I'm Reverend Terry Cummings. You know, this morning we all got an extra hour of sleep, and I was reflecting on my drive here. Maybe if we just put the clocks back every day by 1 hour. You know, and so every 24 days we'd be back to where we started. But wouldn't that be great? Just more sleep? I don't know if I have too many takers for that. But anyway, it's lovely to be here with you this morning. Our call to worship are some words that I discovered a long time ago. I don't think that I wrote them, but I don't know who did. But anyway, I thought I would share them with you. Our call to worship. It is okay to be tired of change. It's okay to be tired of everything being different. Okay to feel weary of resiliency and wholeness and learning and growth. And okay simply to yearn for rest. It's okay to be grouchy and unsatisfied. And all the ordinary human ways of being that we are. Let this morning be a reminder that you're loved. Let our time together soothe you in these restless times. And may you be comforted in knowing that whatever you are feeling today and other days, you are not alone. You are never alone. Come, let us worship together. And I invite you to rise now in body or spirit and sing our opening hymn, number 347. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, of course, I'm going so fast. You see, you'd think I would know by now. Thank you. Chalice lighting.
Chalice lighting words today were written by Reverend Terry. Our chalice lighting words today were written by Reverend Terry. Lighting our chalice is a reminder of the days before electric lighting, when people would light a candle to enter a room or look inside a cupboard. Our chalice is a light that we carry through a different kind of door, into a different kind of darkness, the troubled world around us. A world filled with uncertainty and hope. A world filled with promise and confusion. May the light from this chalice be with all of us as we go about our life's journeys. May it lead this community into endless possibilities. May we never lose sight of the meaning and the purpose of our chalice, to work for justice and love one another.
Thank you so much. And now, I invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing our opening hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit. Spirit, harvest the power, as separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, will endless light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in homes, gather in celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit, growing in awe, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Thank you. Now I typed this up in big type if you think it would be easier. Here you go.
This reading was chosen by Reverend Terry from a book that I now think I have to read, a New York Times bestseller by Barbara Brown Taylor called Learning to Walk in the Dark. Over the course of a year, we worked with recovering addicts, people with AIDS, and the elderly, often doing more harm than good, while we did our best impersonations of ministers. At the end, we sat down in a circle to find out who was being recommended for ordination and who was not. I was not, as it turned out, because I was not sufficiently in touch with my feelings. The supervisor said he could not approve of my taking the next step without an additional year's work. Within the week, I was sitting at my kitchen table with a stack of white copy paper on one side, a box of colored pencils on the other, intent on getting in touch with my feelings. First, I drew the silhouette of a human body on a blank piece of paper. Then I wrote rage at the bottom. Okay, so how did rage feel? I used the black pencil to draw a storm of buzzing bees around my head, filling them with yellow. And after that, I made my head red, hot, hot, hot. Then I filled the whole top of my torso with a brown tangle of electrical wires shooting sparks. Yes, I thought holding the page out so I could see it all, that was what rage felt like. Next, I looked at misery, much more important. But as soon as I wrote the word on the page, I knew misery should be instead sad. Sad called for lots of purple tears in my chest, plus a compression of the shoulders so that they sagged to the ground. Then I used the gray pencil to put a dense, radioactive palette of sorrow right in the middle of my body, and I filled my feet with lead. That left a lot of the body still empty, so I let myself feel sad again, and I knew what I was missing. Sadness happens in the heart. It rolls around in there and makes a lot more room, even if the stretching hurts. So I drew a large red heart on the top of the purple tears and the gray pellet, making them look small by comparison. Then I used purple to sign the drawing. Sad Barbara, sad Barbara. After I worked my way through most of the dark emotions, I decided to try joy. That word called for a bright yellow ball in the middle of my chest with golden shafts of light radiating out in every direction. I used the same pencil to draw golden beams of light shooting from my fingers, filling in the page with solid green earth under my feet, and deep blue around my head. Then I gave myself some company, drawing lots of little stick figure people standing between the earth and the sky with me, all radiating that light so that the halos of our body all came together. This went on until most of the paper was gone and my refrigerator was covered with drawings that I did that looked like the work of a second grader. Examining my night's work, the first thing I could see was that feelings do not happen only in the brain. They happen in the feet, the hands, our shoulders, and the skin, kicking up sparks in the dark interior of the body before they ever make it to the resolution center in the brain. The second thing I could see was that I had segregated my feelings without even thinking about it, putting all the dark ones on this side and all the light ones on the other. But who taught me that the sorting was so automatic that it had not required any conscious effort at all? Or was it simply the difference between unpleasant and pleasant emotions? Or was there more to it than that?
Thank you, Anne. I wonder how many of us have drawn pictures of ourselves to represent our feelings and examined what they represent for us. We come to that time in our service where we share joys and sorrows, remembering that joys are magnified by the sharing and sorrows are diminished when we share them with others. I invite you now to share our joys and sorrows together. I'm not sure what your normal tradition is for doing that, but I'm going to invite you to. One thing, today is All Souls Day. And so at the end of Joys and Sorrows, I'm going to invite everybody who's carrying the name of someone alive or dead, or an animal that's alive or dead, whoever is on your heart, just lift that name out into the sanctuary and share it with all of us. Thank you so much. God of many names and none, we're gathered here this morning in this amazing sanctuary where we feel a sanctuary in our hearts in the companionship of this wonderful community, a community of tradition, a community of memory, a community of hope. We're so grateful this morning for so many, many things. We're grateful for the ringing of a bell. We're grateful for the music that we share. We're grateful for all the things we've accomplished that we can look back on with pride. And we lift up our hearts with gratitude for the flowing water everywhere, from the Berkshires to the Arizona deserts. And we're grateful for our relationships, the people who are in our lives and the teachers who taught us so much and those who are teaching. Holy One, help us to hold in our hearts also in this time of great abundance and joy those who are sick or in the hospital, those who are struggling with life's challenges to fit in. Help us to think about those who we've lost with appreciation and take comfort that they brought so much joy into our lives. And this morning we're thinking also of those who are seeking employment and taking new paths, new directions in life. May this holy hour of worship be a time to reflect and feel spiritually nourished together. I'm going to invite you to just join with me in just a few moments of silence. Let us still sit with our own thoughts, and then I'll invite you back into the sung prayer. Let's just be silent together for just a little time. Just welcome the breath into your body. Feel the breath in your beautiful heart. And I invite you back to sing the song prayer, Draw the Circle Wide. That was lovely. I understand that now is the time for the offering, and it's traditional in this church. This is a month of traditions, and it's traditional in this church for the pastor to share a joke with you all. One or two jokes. So there was a couple who moved to a small town from another town, and they were church shopping. And one day they went for a walk, and they passed the church, and the sign outside the church was the Church of All Saints. And they said, wow, Church of All Saints, that sounds pretty great, but I'm not sure where, that's very good enough for that. So they go a few more blocks, and they pass the Church of All Souls, and they think, oh my God, All Souls, that's really, really impressive, but not sure if I believe in this All Soul thing, so let's walk on some more. And then they came upon a Unitarian church, and that was the Church of All Sorts. And they said, yep, that's the one for us. And in they went and they joined. There you go. And with that, I invite you to the offering.
It's also our tradition to split the offerings we collect with another worthy organization every month. And this month is for the dog training professionals at NEADS. I know several people in here have had wonderful experiences with them, and happy to welcome them to the November Half Plate.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I invite you to join in and share in our responsive reading this morning. It's number 591 in the Grey Hymnal. I'll give you a few seconds to find that. It's I Call That Church Free by a very famous and well-known Unitarian minister, scholar, theologian, James Luther Adams. I'll read the first lines. I'm going to ask you to follow along with the response. I call that church free, which enters into covenant with the ultimate source of existence. It binds together families and generations, protecting against the idolatry of any human claim to absolute truth or authority. I call that church free, which brings individuals into a caring, trusting relationship, fellowship. It is open to insight and conscience from every source. It bursts through rigid tradition, giving rise to new and living language, to new and broader fellowship. The goal is the prophethood and priesthood of all believers, the one for the liberty of prophesying, the other for the ministry of healing. It aims to find unity in diversity under the promptings of the Spirit that bloweth where it listeth and maketh all things new. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I invite you once again to rise in body or spirit and sing number 188 in the Grey Hymnal. Come, come, whoever you are, words by the 13th century Sufi mystic Rumi. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, as is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, as is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, as is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Thank you. Please be seated. It's a real treat for me to join you for worship this morning. A few years ago, I had the privilege of fulfilling my ministerial internship requirement at the church in Lincoln, Massachusetts, the first parish of Lincoln. It's not that far from here. And the sanctuary there, the white church building, is so much like this one. I remember so many lovely Sunday mornings, sharing in Sunday morning worship in a space just like this. And being with you here today, even though this is my very first time, it feels like a homecoming to me, to be in a place that is filled with spirituality and reverence for tradition. And November is the month when tradition is followed in so many different ways. This time of year is one of my favorite times to be in New England. The crisp autumn days, some of the leaves still falling. And if you're lucky at this time of year, you might spot a golden eagle flying south or even a peregrine falcon as the annual fall migration starts to wind down. And the month of November is filled with so many traditions, feasting and fasting and, well, elections too, but I'm not going to talk about elections this morning. This past Friday, Christians observed All Hallows Eve, All Hallows Eve, which we call Halloween. It's a time of fasting and prayer before the Feast of All Saints on November 1st. In keeping with tradition, vast armies of dangerous children fanned out across America, dressed in costumes carrying plastic pails made to look like pumpkins or other bags to carry away their loot. They were rewarded with candy from almost every house that they visited. For Christians, yesterday was All Saints' Day, a day to pray and for and celebrate all the saints who have made their way into heaven. And the 2nd of November, of course, which is today, is All Souls' Day. All Souls' Day is a day in the Christian calendar for praying for all those souls who have not yet made it into heaven but are in purgatory, going through purification. Those of us who are Universalists, of course, gave up believing in purgatory and hell a long time ago, but that is the day in the Christian calendar. And although mostly forgotten these days, next Friday, November 5th, is the anniversary of an event that took place far away in England, but which made its mark here in New England. There's a poem that I grew up with growing up in the UK. Remember, remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason, and plot. In the early hours of November 5th of 1605, barrels of gunpowder were discovered hidden under the Houses of Parliament. They were being guarded by a man named Guy Fawkes. Fawkes was part of a group who planned to overthrow the King of England, King James, who was a Catholic, by blowing him up that day when the Houses of Parliament opened. They planned to replace King James with his 9-year-old daughter. James was a Protestant. They wanted to get rid of the Protestant king and replace him with James's 9-year-old daughter, Elizabeth, who was a Catholic. I'm glad I got that right eventually. That would have been really a terrible thing to mess up. And to celebrate the discovery of the plot, the English Parliament passed a law that said every November 5th was basically Thanksgiving, to celebrate the fact that they were no longer going to be subject to a Catholic monarchy and celebrated their being Protestants. And so every 5th of November, bonfires were lit to celebrate that, and they're still lit every day, every November 5th in the UK. That began that tradition. And just 15 years after the gunpowder plot, the separatists arrived here in New England, and they brought that tradition with them. They came aboard the Mayflower and brought with them so many anti-Catholic traditions. And 10 years after them, the Puritans came, and they brought those traditions with them too. Before long, November 5th in New England, instead of being Guy Fawkes Night, was called Pope's Night, because they were so anti-Catholic. By the mid-1700s, Pope's Night was one of Boston's most popular holidays. And on that day, young men paraded through the town with effigies of the Pope, or back then maybe the English king, and any kind of person who they were against at the time. And when night fell, the effigies were burned on the bonfire. That was Pope's Night in New England, way up until the 1700s. In the fall of 1775, however, the Continental Army was besieging the British garrison in Boston. General Washington heard about Pope's Night and decided that it wasn't a really good idea, because he was hoping that the French Canadian Catholics would join with the Continental Army to throw the British out. So he was not amused when he heard that most of his army, who were drawn from New England, were going to celebrate Pope's Night and burning an effigy of the Pope. He thought that would not go down too well with the French Canadians who he hoped to invite into the fold. So he put a stop to it. Unfortunately, the siege of Boston in 1775 did not succeed. And so in 1776, the Bostonians went back to celebrating Pope's Night again. The next year, though, the French did pony up troops and money, and so the people of Boston who were in leadership decided that maybe now is a good time to end Pope's Night. And so it hasn't been celebrated. For all intents and purposes, that was the end of Pope's Night in New England. Guy Fawkes Night is, as I mentioned, still celebrated in the UK, where I grew up, and every November 5th, there are effigies burned. In the past, effigies of Margaret Thatcher have been burned. More recently, effigies of a certain guy who lives in Mar-a-Lago, Florida, were burned on a bonfire on November 5th. Reverend Stephen was kind enough to share with me his sermon from last week, and he did an excellent job of sharing the pre-Christian history of this weekend's religious traditions. They've been handed down to us from pre-Christian people who were Celtic, who lived in Northern Europe, Northern UK. These Christian communities pre-Christian communities mark their calendars according to the rhythm of the earth and its seasons. And their spiritual lives and their rituals were synchronized with the earth and its seasons as well. For them, November 1st was the beginning of the new year. On that day, the boundary between the living and the dead became blurred, and the spirits of the dead returned to earth. The fear of the spirit world coincided with the fear of hunger in the dark days of winter that lay ahead. It's easy for us living in the 21st century, surrounded 24/7 by electric lights of all colors and degrees of brightness, to dismiss as superstition the ancient people's beliefs that the spirits of the dead returned. But imagine what it must have felt like to live with no electricity or modern conveniences, with just a few short hours of daylight every day, in bitter, bitter cold temperatures, especially here in New England, worried about having enough food and whether you would survive the winter. For them, the dark had a deeper meaning than it holds for most of us. For those of us who went trick-or-treating last Friday, you might have noticed that the moon was a slightly crescent shape, maybe like the slice of an orange segment. That was how the phase the moon was in. There was just enough moonlight to see your way around, and just enough dark to be a little bit scary. This coming Friday, the 5th of November, will be a full moon. In Native American tradition, the full moon in November is known as the beaver moon, after the time when beavers begin to prepare for winter by building dams and stocking up on food. Our reading this morning was from a book called Learning to Walk in the Dark by Reverend Barbara Brown Taylor, and I'm so grateful to Anne for reading that long reading so well. In her book, Reverend Taylor shares a story that's familiar to many of us. She tells a story from her childhood that she went to bed at night and was scared of ghosts and goblins in her room. And she shares how her parents would come upstairs and turn a light on for her so she would not be afraid of the dark. Being afraid of the dark is quite normal for all people of all ages. I remember many years ago growing up in the UK, my father was a veteran of the Second World War, and he shared with me how on the darkest nights when all the artillery fire was coming in and the soldiers were scared out of their wits, they still prayed for the dawn, even though they knew when dawn came there would be even more danger. The dark was still just a scary time. Our first instinct when faced with fear of the dark is to eliminate it, to eliminate our fear as quickly as possible. After all, we're conditioned to think that darkness is bad and light is good. In our reading this morning, Reverend Taylor describes drawing pictures to represent various feelings. She writes about her surprise that good feelings fall into the light category and bad feelings into the dark category. She questions why this is so, and whether it's possible to grow spiritually from the experience of darkness. Over the centuries, dark nights and darkness have gotten a bad rap. But perhaps there's another side to darkness, one to celebrate. In her book, Barbara Brown Taylor describes her journey of exploring the positive sides of darkness. She describes the experience of being guided through subterranean caverns where no light can come in. She describes the incredible gifts the people who lose their eyesight acquire. She describes how the spirituality of darkness can be explored by following the phases of the moon, intentionally seeking out those phases and sleeping outdoors on dark nights when there is no moon, listening to the sounds of the creatures in the dark. The problem is not what lies unseen in the dark, she says, but our resistance to finding out. Our feelings of insecurity, our fears, all stem from our reluctance to walk in the dark. For many of us, it's not just the shortening days that feel dark as we approach the winter solstice. I know that many people are concerned about the future of our democracy. Many of us fear for the future of life on our planet. And we're all tired of war and conflict in the world around us. When I began my reflection this morning, I mentioned how much I appreciated the beauty of this sanctuary. It really touches me. The word sanctuary means a place of refuge or safety. And that's perhaps the most important tradition of all to follow in this month of November and every month. For it's truly a gift to find a sanctuary here in this sacred place, to safely connect with one's community, for some of us a place to connect with the God of our understanding. At a time when the world is filled with darkness and conflict, being here is a place to walk into the light and leave the darkness behind. And it is in our religious and our spiritual beliefs that we find reason for hope in times like these. And on Sunday morning worship, we get to share our hope. Some would say our faith with others. One of the places where I find hope is knowing that every generation has faced incredible challenges and has overcome them. Especially right here in New England, where our religious heritage began with the arrival of the separatists and the Puritans, those who survived the dark and cold winters of the New World. Often when I'm leading a Sunday service, I think about the people whose faces came before me, the faces that would have greeted the ministers who stood in pulpits like this before me. I think of those people, and I've often felt that they are still with us in spirit. They laughed and they cried just as we do, and they shared similar hopes and fears. I wonder what the people who looked like here in the 1960s and 70s and beyond. They probably looked just like us, except with different clothing perhaps. What did they talk about during coffee hour? What issues of the day were addressed by the pastor in their Sunday services? Surely they were no less urgent than the ones we're facing today. It's knowing that they got through those times that fills me with hope that we will get through these challenging times. And I believe that if we hold true to our UEU principles, and I'm still invested in the 7 principles, even though our denomination has cast them aside. If we hold on to those principles and our values, we'll become wiser than ever before. Reverend Barbara Brown Taylor's book reminds us that when light fades and darkness falls, as it does each and every day, the God of our understanding does not turn the world over to a different God. Even when we cannot see where we are going and no one answers our call, this doesn't mean we're alone. There is a holy and creative presence that transcends all of our ideas and all of our prayers. I hope that as the days get shorter, my reflection today will inspire you to think differently about the dark, to seek out a moonrise just as eagerly as you would seek out a moonrise. I also hope that as the month of November progresses through the cycle of the moon and the celebration of Thanksgiving, that you can find comfort in the traditions of New England and also in the traditions of this congregation. May it be so. Thank you so much for your attention this morning. Blessed be and amen. And I invite you again to rise in body or spirit as you're able and sing our closing hymn. Number 131 in the gray hymnal, Love, as always, will guide us. Peace beside us. change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, love beside us, we're away from the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the dark night. Thank you. Please be seated. And as we extinguish our chalice, our chalice extinguishing words are printed in the order of service. I invite you to read along as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May your roots grow deep, may your branches grow wide. As worship ends now, but our service begins. Thank you so much for having me here with you this morning.